They tell us, girl, at least you got somebody. As long as he ain't beating or cheating on you, you ain't really got problems. As if love has to come with a bruise before anyone believes it hurts. But love without respect is glass without thickness. One tap and it all comes crashing down. But what do you call it when someone takes a hammer to your spirit, cracks your reflection until you don't recognize yourself and sweeps the pieces under the rug? You keep sweeping the shards into your throat just so the silence won't cut anyone else. What do you call it when you question your own sanity because his mistreatment is so obvious, yet he is master gaslighter? No bruises to point to, just fractures below the epidermis, damage invisible but deeper. Wounds you can't ice pack away, scars that don't fade because they live beneath the skin. I was 20 when I said I do, packed up my whole life, moved across the country for what I thought was two people in love, but I was the one in love with the facade. The man who once cooked, delivered plates to my job like love offerings, kept the house shining, crowned me princess without request, confessed it was all rehearsal, that he only played that role because he was on my stage and I was paying for the show. Courtship was a performance, I was financier, full audience to a play that never had a happy ending, a prenup of lies. 11 years inside a funhouse mirror that told me I was crazy for seeing the cracks. Do you know how many times I had to call my parents embarrassed, ashamed, asking for help paying the bills while I had a whole husband in the house? 11 years, and still I kept convincing myself that if he wanted me physically, we must be okay. That if his hands still reached for my body, maybe he still loved me. But intimacy without honor is just another fracture. And I was bleeding spirit all over the floor. And if I'm being honest, it wasn't just hope or shame that kept me tethered. It was sex, good sex, the kind that fogs your judgment, that makes you forget the ache as soon as your body remembers pleasure. The kind I haven't duplicated since, but even the best sex can't save a broken spirit. I knew I was done the day my body no longer answered to his touch. When every advance felt like sandpaper, when intimacy turned into intrusion, and of course, he assumed you must be cheating, but no, fool, my pussy ain't a separate shard. The fractures run through every pain you've already broken. As I grew from that 20-year-old girl into the woman God was shaping me to be, he shrank, couldn't handle my growth, my questions, or becoming. I asked him about faith, about accountability, about Islam as more than a shield to hide behind, but he only practiced the Quran that bent in his favor, preached obedience while never holding up his end of the vow, convenient religion, selective surahs, submission for me, freedom for him, and still I stay. Because somewhere in my head echoed those hand-me-down proverbs. If he isn't cheating, if he isn't beating, you ain't got no problems. So I swallowed my own voice, silenced my own cracking bones, and convinced myself broken glass was just another kind of home. It took me 11 years to realize what I should have known, and two, that a woman does not have to bleed invisibly to prove she deserved better. That just because the damage is soul deep doesn't mean it isn't fatal. And still, there are voices that chastise me for leaving, that say, if that's all you went through, you could have stuck it out. It might have gotten better, but tell me, how many surface cuts was I supposed to endure before it cut down to the white meat? How long can you leave a trail of blood before you bleed out completely? Why do we teach girls that only black eyes count? That unless his hands leave fingerprints on your neck, the suffocation isn't real, that survival only counts if it comes with the police report? Tell me, what about the glass in my lungs, the jagged edge of every word that dishonored who I am? I should have left at year 2. But shame and hope make a terrible glue. So I stayed, shattered smile, bleeding spirit, until I finally understood a cage made of glass is still a cage. And even when it looks whole from the outside, inside, you are cutting yourself every day just trying to stay. And what makes me furious is that 15 years later, I'm still picking up the shards, still finding slivers of us in my skin, stepping on dusted particles of glass. so small. You think time would have swept them clean, but they cut just the same. And I bleed all over again for a marriage long buried, for a woman I keep having to resurrect. Now I am done apologizing for the kind of pain that doesn't leave bruises. I will hold my shards up to the sun, watch them reflect into colors, proof that broken things still bend light. I am here to tell you, sometimes the loudest violence is the silence of someone who refuses to honor your name. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is drop the glass, let it shatter, and walk away barefoot, because healing finally starts the moment you decide you deserve to be whole. And while I didn't think the period between sharing love and self-love would be so long, if you know my story, if you know the amount of shattered pieces I had to reclaim just to become a mosaic of whole, then you know this. I refuse to settle, and I refuse to shatter again, because even a single blade of grass can burst through concrete. And isn't it fitting that I keep learning I don't need to mow the lawn after all? Survival keeps growing wild, cracking through the pavement, reminding me I was never meant to be trimmed down just to make someone else feel comfortable.